Megan Shroy, founder and president of Approach Marketing, talks to host Doug Simon on PR's Top Pros Talk.
Megan, let's start off with how small agencies can stay competitive and if AI plays a role. How can they be using it to stay competitive?
One of the things that we've found, over the last decade is small agencies' ability to be nimble, right? And that's, at, of course, the direction of leadership. And it's also just a function of not having, many layers of management and, oftentimes, other factors that weigh into big agency that, play a role in how quick we can move. And so I do think that at Approach, at least, we've been able to adopt AI much more quickly than some of our big agency counterparts as a result of that. I also think it has been an effort to jump in and experiment early. As we're talking to our clients, you don't have that ability, right? They wanted to get everything buttoned up first and a company-wide position established, an enterprise platform established early on before people could start experimenting. But I found our approach a couple of years ago was like, let's just try, experiment, you get comfortable using the technology. And so I do think that that's one of the reasons that small agencies have been able to level the playing field a little bit. We're never going to have the resources that big agencies have. And so that's of course the challenge on the other side of that. And really, we just have made an effort to say we're going to make the investment because we know this is the direction that the industry is moving and we don't want to be left behind.
Yeah, and so much about that is about the clients and how they interact as well. One of the things that you've taken a big step forward with is agentic AI, which we've covered on the podcast before, but you've actually built more than 80 custom AI agents for clients. Can you tell us about that process and if there's sort of a through line into the types of support you're giving them with these agents?
Yeah, one of the things we realized early on is that we weren't going to be able to force our clients to adopt kind of generic tools. And as we were really pushing our clients in the direction of creating custom AI agents, we really had to sell the full story and talk through why they should care about this. So yeah, we've created, 80 plus, it's probably more now, custom AI agents for clients. It started with an agent stack that every single client was going to get. Things that help us do our job better, easier, more efficiently.
What are some examples of
Yeah, so
that,
like
the things that
trend
help do it?
spotting us as it relates to a specific client so that we're getting, what are the reporters talking about this week in real time that relates to our clients. So like a lot of things that, help us create custom content for them every single week, that's going to automatically get fed into the inboxes of their team. We actually have 5 in that stack, different agents that we require our client experience directors to build and customize for their clients. But what's been really cool is then the ability to have, higher level conversations with clients and say, what are the things that you care about? Where are your feet being held to the fire? And that's when, we've gotten really, creative in what we've been able to create. And for me, as a PR practitioner and as someone in comms, it's always been really, really difficult for us to tie our results directly to business outcomes, right? We're
Of
not
course.
doing performance marketing. And so it's difficult for us to do that. And our clients are very used to measurement in that way. And so for me, that's where we've really pushed our clients to go is to say, okay, how much of your data can we access? Can we get all the sales data? Can we get foot traffic walking into your locations? Because then we can get pretty creative with building agents that are going to help us link our efforts to that. To give you a specific example, we work with a multi-location client that was open to giving us access to everything. So they're like, you're working in a protective environment. We're really comfortable with you getting our daily sales reports. We're comfortable with you getting everything that we have access to as far as sales in real time. And we're implementing a pretty large scale community engagement program for them. So we're doing, really micro events in the neighborhoods that they operate in across the country. And what that has allowed us to do is be more nimble in our strategy with what's working in real time. So this agent will spit out a report report every single day that says, okay, maybe we had 13 different events across the country yesterday, and what showed ROI, what we spent, how long people stayed in there, what their food and beverage totals were. And so we can say, okay, gosh, these type of events are performing way better than these. Let's scrap, all of the, I don't know, sports sponsorships next month and really lean more
Right.
into bar crawls or whatever it might be. And that's what I think has been exciting with customizing these is when the clients get excited about it and they're on board and they're like, this is going to help us get a better ROI out of this program. And, we're willing to adapt and change in real time and say like, this strategy needs to kind of evolve with us based on what we're seeing. And that's been exciting. It's been really cool.
Two of the topics that come up are both somewhat related. One is adoption within your employee base and client base, and the other is compliance issues. How do you navigate those issues?
Both great questions that we talked about early on as we were investing in AI at Approach and we were building our AI strategy. At the time, a gentleman who sat on my advisory board was, starting an AI firm, talking to us a lot about where we should go. And one of the things he kept bringing up is change management. And you almost need to be an expert in change management with this big of a transformation in
Right.
your industry. So we really did take a thoughtful approach to adoption, right? We have a senior level team. It's one of the value propositions that we tee up to our clients. And what that means is, they've been doing this for multiple decades and they have their ways of doing things. And I get it. Changing the way that you go about, your everyday work can be frustrating, particularly when it involves learning a new technology that you might not fully understand and you certainly don't know, how to use.
Other than that, it's pretty easy to do it.
Yeah, I mean, right. I think that any time we're going through a transformation like this, especially when people, feel a little bit threatened, by AI, and we've all heard it's coming for our jobs, as writers, as creators, AI can, do a lot of the things that we have historically been doing. And so we tried to take a thoughtful approach to this. And we've tried to make it fun. And we've also, put process and standard operating procedures around the way that we use AI to help people adopt. I'll give you some examples. So, I mentioned that custom stack of AI agents that we require every single one of our client experience directors, our account leads, to build for their specific client. And then, they're responsible for, making sure that they're holding the team accountable for using them. No one knew these aren't coders, right? These
Right.
are, agency folks, client experience directors. But we said you're gonna take a first pass at this. And then the consultancy that we hired is going to come in and, help you work through all the bugs. So it got them, rolling up their sleeves and getting their hands dirty, within this orchestration platform to build agents. We sent out a power user list every single week and we kind of stack ranked people on, who's, adopting this. We had town halls every weekend where, the consultancy we're using were there. People could come in and ask questions, but they also could, bring some of those brand and client challenges that they're talking about on the front lines, of our client business and talk through, is there a solve for this? Like, is there a tool that could help us operate more efficiently and, really utilize our team's time, to the highest and best use, of the client. And so things like that, I think helped everyone, dive into the, pool head first. And we're still learning, right? We're still, trying to
Sure.
get better at this every day. It certainly doesn't happen overnight. But I do feel like we've kind of rolled up our sleeves and said, like, this is the direction this agency is going. So, like, get on the bus. Like, you're be in this together. You asked another question too, and that was about policy. We learned very early on, again, at the advisory of, this gentleman who sits on my board, that we needed to put together an AI usage policy. We needed to feel, really, strongly about making sure that our clients understand how we're using AI. They understand
Right.
how we're using their data, that we're working in a really protective environment. And so, we did that early. We published it on our website. We communicated that to all of our clients. And now, it's a part of our, standard master service agreement. It's in every single scope of
Right.
work that we sign with clients, and it protects the clients too, and, as well as us. And so,
Yeah.
yes, I think that being transparent is a number one.
A couple of things that our companies share is the dedication to the employees. And that's also resulted in us having a 12-year average tenure for per employee and you having a similar experience. What are some of the things that you're doing to retain people, to help them balance? And I don't love the word balance because I ideally like your workplace to inform and support your life and your life to support your work,
Yeah.
but allow them to continue on that growth path.
That's a great question. I was actually with a client last night, took a client out to dinner, with two folks on my team, and it came up as part of that conversation that, one of the gals was celebrating her 10-year anniversary with us, and the other one was my first employee who was with us. So she's been with me
Wow.
14 years. And I was so just taken aback, just hearing those numbers. And yes, when I started this thing, I wanted to build a place that people loved. And we say all the time, like, love your work, live your life. Our value proposition to our client or our talent is not necessarily work-life balance, because I agree with you that that's almost impossible to achieve.
And it
For
makes it
us,
a zero-sum game if that's the mindset. You enjoy life more, work is less. And that should,
100%.
and we're fortunate enough in this type of industry to have that flexibility.
100%. But to be perfectly honest, my why and one of the big reasons I started this agency is because I was working for a global firm and I wanted to start a family. And I saw the push and pull and the disconnect that the current role I was in was going to offer me, as I, wanted to, have children and be a mom alongside, climb the corporate ladder and have a big job. I didn't see that working in the role that I was in. And so, I said, is there a different way of doing this? Is there, a better model where we really can, talk to our talent and say, what are the parameters of your life? I'm very, very comfortable with part-time work. And I think a lot of big agencies shy away from having part-time employees. If I find the right talent, I will figure out a spot for them. And as a result, I do very much respect the time that they're not working. And we build team and we create process to make sure that they can feel supported in that way, and the client is always going to feel supported. To me, we've been doing this now for 15 years. I don't even think about it anymore, but I do think that there's a reason I have that tenure here. And similarly, there's a reason that, the vast majority of our team is working moms. And I think that that's because, we, offer an opportunity to have a big job and be a mom. We're very, very respectful of that. And I laugh, like, if you want to find a team that gets stuff done, hire moms. Like, moms can get stuff done.
Yeah, we've got a number of them at our firm and they are pretty phenomenal in general. And I'm
I
married
have
to
a
one as
tendency to
well.
think
So that
so.
that works out really well on that. I have to give kudos to you because most people who say, I want more free time to be with my family. I'm going to start a successful business. That's usually not the path to go hand in hand, but you've managed to do it. Any final thoughts you'd like to leave our audience with?
We're in a moment in time right now that is unique and interesting with, everything that AI is doing, to change the way that we work. And, one of the conversations I continue to have is about critical thinking and what AI is doing for, the ability to take the last, 2 decades of being in this industry and think critically about a communications challenge, a business challenge that my client is bringing to me. And, the thing that I am really trying to push and, lean into myself is there is a place for this technology in this industry. It makes us faster. It makes us more efficient. It makes, us more informed. It's that strategic and critical thinking layer on top of all that I think that's the direction that the agency needs to move.
Yeah, well, Megan, it's been great to speak with you. Thanks so much and continued success.
Thank you.